Hello and welcome. This is Marjorie Saulson welcoming you to this meeting of the Coffee and Coaching Club. I hope you have something to drink, whether it's coffee or tea or water. Water's always good because most of us are very dehydrated. And today we have a very important topic. It's feel like you're not being heard. And this happens to us a lot of times in life, where we say something with somebody and my hair's sticking out funny. Well, listen, it's just us folks. And they interrupt you or they say whatever. And I'm indebted to one of my clients, Marjorie, who asked a question about this at a prior Coffee and Coaching Club meeting. And so let's dive right in and with our agenda. And I'm going to share my screen now. And let's see. There we go. And open up everything so that we have the full screen mode. So here we are. Feel like you're not being heard. Here are 3 things to do. And allow me to introduce my wonderful helper and production manager, Margaret Johnson, who will be watching the Q&A. Margaret, you want to tell everybody what you're going to be doing?
I'm just going to be monitoring the Q&A, as you said, and so I want to encourage you, if you have questions going through this, to use the Q&A box. You will find that at the bottom of your control panel or at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you hover down at the bottom, it should pop right up. And if you see that, just go ahead and drop a question in there, say hello, let me know that you found it, and go ahead, Marjorie, you are on.
Okay, so we are going to be, the basic agenda is I'm going to be presenting some information over the next 25 minutes, and whatever time we have left in the half hour, we will have Q&A. And I would also suggest, seeing the topic for today's club meeting was suggested by somebody on a call. If there's some topic about communication where you're having issues and problems and so forth and so on, please stick that right in the Q&A box as well. All right, we're getting serious. I'm putting on my glasses. And I'm going to be sharing with you during this call 3 strategies that I think you will find helpful to empower you to claim what I like to call the power of your voice. Because when you can come into the power of your voice and share what you have to offer people and ask questions and so forth, that really is a wonderful way to live your life. So let's jump right in. And by the way, I'm coming up with 3 situations where people aren't being heard. There's probably plenty more, but we just have a short time. So this first situation is, what is this situation? See that lady who's the second from the right, who looks like she wants to say something? Sometimes you're in a conversation and with 1 or more people, and it seems you can't either get a word in edgewise because somebody keeps yakking, or you get interrupted when you start speaking. And by the way, studies have shown that this happens far more often to women than to men. Men are far more likely to interrupt women than women to interrupt men. And it probably also happens to anybody who is considered in a less powerful position in the social hierarchy. So what do? I'm a big believer in using good manners. Good manners can be a wonderful weapon to counteract a rude interruption. And really, what is a rude interruption? It's a boundary issue. There you are trying to share something and somebody interrupts you. They are infringing upon your boundary, your right to say something. So here's a little something, and you can use some variation of this very politely. I beg your pardon, or pardon me, just a minute. I haven't finished speaking yet, or I haven't finished my sentence, or I haven't finished sharing my idea. And sometimes it may also help to kind of put up your hand and say, just a minute, I haven't finished speaking yet. And tone of voice is very important here. Not snarky, not rude. And just as a warning, you may have to interrupt the interrupter, because if you let them keep talking, they have gotten away with interrupting you. So this is a strategy that's important to use quickly and right away. So here's another situation. There you are in this big meeting, and everybody's, say this is a corporate meeting. By the way, all of these situations were brought to me by various clients who ran into these problems. Or frankly, the first one I've had plenty of times myself. So here you are, you make a suggestion at a meeting, and it's either, kind of poo-pooed or shot down, or it's not greeted with any enthusiasm. And sometime later, it could be even the same meeting or the next meeting or a month or 2 months or a year later, somebody comes up with the very same suggestion or something very similar to the one that you made. And all of a sudden, it's the greatest idea since Swiss cheese. But it was your idea, right? You're the one who planted the seed. What do? Again, good manners come to your rescue. And this is a wonderful way to call out someone for taking credit for your idea or suggestion without being nasty or snarky about it. I'm really so honored George picked up on that suggestion I made last month. That makes me feel so good. George, I really like how you kind of edited it and brought it to everybody's attention again. That makes me feel really good. Something along those lines. It's really important. Once again, tone of voice is really important. I'm so honored George picked up on the suggestion I made earlier. That doesn't do the deed. The whole idea is to let everybody know in a nice way that you made the suggestion. And maybe when you keep doing that, people will start giving you credit where credit is due. But again, it's using good manners as a weapon. So here's another situation, and I've had several people tell me that they've run into this problem, especially when they work in a corporate situation. So what's this problem here? You've taken a major role on a team project. There's something that has to be done. And you're the basic person who's done most of the work. You've taken a leadership role. You've made sure everybody did everything else. And when it comes time to present the results and the work, oh boy, somebody else takes credit. They stand up and start talking about how their team did all of this. My goodness, that's really annoying. Allow me to take a drink. What do you do in that situation? This is a situation where proactive is better than after the fact. Now, I know from my years in a volunteer work that the hardest position to fill in any volunteer board is that of secretary. Nobody wants to take the minutes. It's actually probably, other than the president, the most important job, because the secretary is the historian, as it were, of the meeting. So when you're the person who takes notes, this is what you take notes of. Any decisions that people made or decisions that were postponed and have to be made later. Now, this is really important. Who's responsible for doing various tasks and the deadlines for those tasks? That's really crucial to make sure that everybody stays on board and online with what they're supposed to do. And then any future items that need to be part of another agenda so that they don't get forgotten. I think that's called putting them in the parking lot or something like that. And here's the crucial piece. After you've typed up the notes, you share them with everybody who was in the meeting and say, this is what was discussed as you recall it, and are there any corrections that need to be made? And here's something very tricky to do. When I say copy all interested parties, if you're in an organization where you have to answer to a manager or a boss or whatever, whoever else in that organization, copy those people on the notes. So it becomes very clear without you saying word one, who is taking the leadership position. Because there are very significant advantages of doing the job of being the secretary, as it were, taking and distributing those notes. First of all, this is really important. And if you're in a corporate position, you position yourself as a leader. You're somebody who they should be looking at for a promotion or a raise. And without saying anything out loud, you automatically get credit for what you've done, because the person who keeps track of everything is a very important person on a project. And the thing is that you're the one who keeps everything moving because of these notes. Everybody knows who needs to do what, who owns what task and what the deadline is. This is really crucial. And you avoid what I consider among the most useless types of arguments in the world. He said, she said arguments. This is due on the 13th. No, we said it was going to be the 15th. When it's there in the notes, no such arguments. That was Sally's job. No, it was your job. No, I was sure we said it was Sally was going to do it. So that type of argument gets totally eliminated when you take notes. And this doesn't have to be as part of notes as when you're in a corporation. If you're head of anything, when I was chair of a fashion show luncheon for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra Volunteer Council. And we met with Cheryl Hall at Saks Fifth Avenue to discuss all the details. I just took notes about everything, and then I sent them out to everybody. And it just made it very easy to keep track of everything. So both in the corporate and the business and the volunteer world, keeping notes of who does what and who's responsible for what and when stuff is due, and getting everybody to agree, yes, this is the path ahead, is a very effective way to run any organization, any project, any business. So I, of course, promised 3 strategies, but here's just kind of a generic one. Be prepared, that's the Boy Scouts marching song, be prepared. So what do I mean by be prepared? So if you are going to be going into any kind of meeting or any kind of discussion, if you're going to a networking event, you need to be prepared. What do you need to be prepared about? You need to kind of do your homework. Be knowledgeable about items to be discussed. If you're going to go to networking, know what you're going to say in terms of your elevator pitch and how you're going to connect with people and what kind of questions you're going to be asking them to see if they have some kind of need for what you do. And decide what value you can bring to any discussion. If you have some suggestions and thoughts and ideas, think about something that you might want to suggest, and be prepared to present whatever you would like to suggest in a concise and a logical manner. And I noticed that I use the word suggest. The minute you say, well, you know what we should do is, all the walls go up. People do not like to be told what to do. The minute you start telling people, especially in an organization, that we should do this, everybody's inner 2-year-old comes out and they think, no, I don't want to do that. So one of the ways you might do, and I'm a big believer in the subjunctive tense. Now, if you don't remember your grammar, that's might. And what might be helpful is if we were to do this or that or the other, or I've been thinking about this situation, and it seems to me that one of our major issues here is da, 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 da. And one of the ways we might be able to deal with it is da, 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 da. So it's what I call a soft presentation. And people, I think, are much more open to hearing ideas that are not shoved down their throat, but asking people, so do you think this might be something that we should possibly take a look at? And you open, it's kind of using like a can opener to open the the closed minds of people who frankly don't like new ideas. We human beings are pretty resistant to new ideas. It's said that the only one who really is anxious for change is a wet baby. So if you're going to be presenting a new idea and you really want it to be acceptable, you need to be able to present it in a concise and a logical manner and in a way that enables people to consider it as a possibility rather than this is what you should do or we should do. So those are some thoughts about being able to get your ideas across a little more effectively and maybe not having somebody else snitch them down the road. But chances are, and I don't know, maybe a lot of women I've talked to, a lot of my friends say they've had this experience. They suggest something to their husband who poo-poos it. And interestingly enough, sometime later, their husbands come up with this great new idea. My husband has a lot of great new ideas that way too. And I try to be nice and not say, well, actually, I suggested that 3 months ago. You know, you have to be nice sometimes. So I'd like to share with you just some general guidelines about how you handle yourself when you feel you're not being heard. And chances are you may get really angry. But the one thing my late Aunt Catherine taught me, and she was a very wise lady, when you lose your temper, you lose. So what's your visceral reaction to this very angry guy? You don't want to have anything to do with somebody who comes across angry like this. You don't want to hear a word this person has to say. And the truth of the matter is that we humans do not like to hear angry people, and we don't like to see other people attacked. In fact, we may be righteously angry, and the other person may be deserving of our anger. But there's something about the human condition is that we tend to, look out for the underdog, even if the underdog is wrong. So it's really important not to attack somebody who has done something wrong, interrupted you, or basically stolen your credit for what you do. And by the way, if you haven't taken notes and somebody does take credit, I really want to acknowledge George for presenting all the work that we did together and thank him for presenting it. As you may know, I did this, that, and the other, and Sally did this, and George did that, and da-da-da-da, and we worked together as a team. So that's another way you can use good manners if you don't have notes to back you up when somebody takes credit for a whole team's work. So here's a second guideline. The minute you start drawing boundaries with people who have been squashing yours for years, and you stop being a wuss, and you say, stop, just a minute, I haven't finished speaking yet. People aren't going to like that. They are going to give you a hard time, and they're going to tell you, well, you're just being so touchy. Other people's opinions are none of your business. Don't pay attention to people who criticize you when you know that you're the person who's right. The only person's opinion that really needs to matter to you is your own. Now, that doesn't mean that other people might not have suggestions that are worth considering, but it's considering that's the important word, not taking every kind of criticism or rejection to heart. And the third general guideline, which I've referred to really, is that good manners are really a good offense when you are dealing with offensive behaviors. And I'll have to tell you where I learned this whole, I beg your pardon, but I believe da-da-da-da, was from my dear late mother. She was a white gloves person, very, very well-mannered and so forth. And I remember the days, and if you're young, quite a bit younger, you may not ever remember the days when you used to be able to go into a department store walk up to the counter, and there would be a salesperson waiting to wait on you. And there's still some times where you want to get the attention of a salesperson, and you're waiting politely for your turn. And when it's your turn, all of a sudden somebody tries to push in front of you. Well, my dear late mother would say, "I beg your pardon. I believe that I was next." Very nicely, not yelling. And then very quickly, immediately turning to the salesperson and say, "What I wanted to ask you, would you please show me that whatever it was that she wanted to ask about?" But the really important thing to do when you're using this kind of thing is to immediately shift so the person has no chance to interject again. So if somebody interrupts you and you say, I beg your pardon, but I haven't finished my sentence. And what I was saying is this, that, the other. Don't pause. Don't give that person a chance to interrupt you again. Because the reality is that politeness wins over rudeness 1,000,000 to 1. Everybody talks about the know, like, and trust factor. People are not going to like you if you're rude, if you're nasty, if you interrupt them. You know, this is a lesson to us, not only how to handle other people who do these things, but it's also a reminder for us not to do these things as well. So politeness and good manners are a bedrock of creating that know, like, and trust that you want to have with the people with whom you deal. So now I would like to ask Margaret, what questions do we have about these things I've shared before I offer you a couple of invitations?
Okay, so let's start with Wilma. I responded to something in a workshop and the presenter totally misinterpreted what I was saying. I did my best to explain, and her general tone and attitude was not pleasant. I was thrown off and hesitated to respond anymore. That has happened to me on a few occasions. I am often misunderstood, and that is frustrating to me. What is the ideal way to handle?
Okay, first of all, if this has happened to you more than once or several times, then it's really important to take a look at how you are expressing yourself. If this was a one-off kind of thing, okay, so this person either has bad hearing or they don't focus carefully on listening or whatever. But if this has happened more than once, then it's important to take a look, frankly, and this is always hard to do. But when we are the common denominator in a situation that keeps happening over and over again, then it's important to take a look at how you are expressing yourself. And sometimes it helps to say very clearly that I would like to ask about, or I would like to suggest first this, second that, and third this, number things. Or ask about, I would like to specifically ask about this issue you mentioned. Is it true that, or do you think that? Try and take a look at how you are asking your question or making your suggestion. Because if a lot of people are misunderstanding you, that means that you are not getting your message across as clearly as you would like. Which, by the way, reminds me, I do want to extend my 2 invitations before we get to the next question, because this may be helping you and other people. First of all, to our next Coffee and Coaching Club meeting, it's dealing with the fear of speaking in public. And notice I didn't say public speaking. The minute you say public speaking, people think, oh, that's giving a speech. But the reality is when you're in business or in relationship with people, period, you are speaking in public. I define public speaking as any time you talk to somebody other than yourself. So you may not be nervous actually giving a speech, but be nervous about standing up and asking a question at an event and worrying about how somebody will respond to you, or at networking or talking on the phone. And you can sign up for that at our URL coffeeandcoaching.club. My next invitation is to take advantage of my complimentary communication confidence assessment. It's a short 10-question assessment that can help you figure out where you need to up-level your communication skills. And you can find that at vibrantvocalpower.com. That's my website, /CCA for Communication Confidence Assessment. And to give you a little incentive for that, every month I will pick one of the people who has taken that assessment and send that person a free copy of my international best-selling book. I just hit that since the last time we spoke, of my book, Empowering Business Owners to Overcome Speaking Fears, whether you're talking with one person or 1,000. So again, that URL to take the communication confidence assessment is vibrantvocalpower.com /CCA. And I think that you will find, Wilma, that maybe if you win that book, you'll find some good hints in there. Plus, there's a lot of good stuff on my website for you.
And it's also available on Amazon right now.
Okay, right.
So Kathy had a follow-up to, I think, to your answer to Wilma, not just how we express ourselves, but how we feel about ourselves. Our self-worth often affects how others treat us.
Oh, yes. Yes, that is so true.
Step into your confidence, folks.
Yes, I want you to know why I picked those 3 words for the name of my business and my website, Vibrant Vocal Power. Because we come into the power of our voice when we really have that type of belief in the message that we have to share, and we can share it with vibrancy and enthusiasm and really give that aura of really believing in what we have to say. I honestly feel that the foundational piece of communication confidence is knowing that you have something worthwhile to share. It's your message that's the foundation. And then, of course, when you can share it with that inner belief that what you have to say is worthwhile, no matter what anybody else may say. Because, there's a joke, I'm Jewish, there's a joke among Jewish people. If you have 2 Jews, you have 3 opinions. We love to have alternate opinions. So I'm very comfortable with alternate opinions. But the fact of the matter is if you know you have something of value, that's really crucial. Thank you so much for that observation.
So another question from Bob. If I get interrupted and don't challenge it, sorry, this wasn't from Bob, this was from Stacy. If I get interrupted and don't challenge it, I feel like I'm basically giving permission for it to happen again. Do you agree?
Absolutely. You can train people to be rude to you, or you can train them to be polite. And the fact of the matter is that what you have to say is equally important to what anybody else in this world has to say. We are all equally God's children. We are all equally entitled to our own opinions and viewpoints. And when we allow somebody to continually be rude to us, not only does that affect our own self-esteem, we're not doing that person a favor. You know, allowing people to be rude is allowing them to indulge in a behavior that is turning off not only you, but all those other people to whom they are rude. You are actually doing the person a favor. It may not feel like that because it may be hard for you to do the first few times you do it, but stop, wait a minute. I'm not finished speaking yet. Please do me the courtesy of listening to what I have to say.
I remember, Marjorie, I was chairing a committee for the city, the little suburb I live in, and the mayor came in, and he wanted the results of the committee to be a certain thing and started loudly pontificating. And
what did you do?
And you interrupting and shouting, and I finally said, Andy, I am not making decisions based on the fact that you think you can yell louder than I can. And it shut him right up and sat him down.
Oh my goodness. There's our bell.
So I just had one more thing I wanted to share. This did come from Bob. It was an observation on note-taking. And he said, make sure there's an upfront agreement that you're taking notes so it doesn't look like CYA.
Okay. Very good point, Bob. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I thank all of you who joined us today. Please be sure and go to vibrantvocalpower.com/CCA and take that little quiz. I'd love for you to be the person to win a copy of my book. And as Margaret pointed out, it is available on Amazon. And I'm so excited that I hit international bestseller. I mean, gee, this is my first book out of the gate, and I'm really thrilled about it. And I hope that you enjoy it as well. Margaret, I thank you so much for your assistance. As always, you are a wonderful co-host, helper, program manager, provider of questions. And I look forward to seeing everyone. Please remember our next program is Quickly Calm Your Speaking Nerves. If there's one thing that prevents people from speaking up, is being afraid to do it.
And that's in 2 weeks on December 17th.
And you can
same time, same station.
Right, and you can find the place to sign up, so you get the reminders and the URL at coffeeandcoaching.club. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate all of you being here.